Welcome back to our Leaders in Customer Loyalty podcast. Today is the Brand Stories edition. It's a Thursday, so it's great having you with us. Today we're going to be taking a journey across China, Japan, Korea, and Thailand. Well, not actually, but through the lens of a restaurant brand that pays homage to these cuisines and cultures through its culinary approach and guest experiences. We're talking about P.F. Chang's, the casual dining restaurant chain known for its American, Chinese, and Asian-inspired cuisine. The brand has recently welcomed a new chief marketing officer, and today we're going to be hearing her perspectives on how she plans to enhance the customer experience and evolve the customer loyalty program to better resonate with today's guests as well as those in the future. I wanted to welcome to the Leaders in Customer Loyalty podcast, Holly Smith, the new chief marketing officer at P.F. Chang's. Holly, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. How are you?
Hi, good. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yeah, it was St. Patrick's Day. Yes, yes, yes. Did you do anything fun for St. Patrick's Day?
I wore green, so I guess that that counts.
That's good. That's good. Okay. P.F. Chang's, one of my favorite restaurants. I know we talked about that in the introduction. I'm kind of a picky eater, so I only have a list of 6 or 7 restaurants I eat at, and P.F. Chang's is one of them. Love the food. But the spicy green beans, those are my favorite, and they still make them even though they're not on the menu. So I love that. For those who may not be familiar, can you give us a brief background on P.F. Chang's, what you do, how you do it, and a little bit about the customers you serve?
Sure. So PF Chang's, it's a legacy brand. And I think where PF Chang's was so interesting to me when I was presented with the opportunity is it really fills the market space for Pan-Asian polished casual food. There's really not another kind of major national competitor that kind of fills that market space. So that was what was really exciting to me. So the brand started in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's now national with a little more than 200 units across the country. And then we have an additional 100 units globally and growing. So, just really exciting proposition. And, it was really exciting for me to kind of to jump into a new cuisine type.
Okay, great. As we prep for this, you mentioned that you've been on the job about 100 days, recently appointed chief marketing officer. Can you tell us a little about that role, what you're in charge of from a day-to-day perspective, and maybe some of the priorities that you're focused on within the organization?
Sure. So my team consists of menu insights, consumer insights. So that's everything from, innovation, culinary. I also have the brand team. So that's the creative team, all of our engine, and everything that we take from consumer insights. And then how do we bring that to life? Then we have the digital side of things, which would be OPD, which is our off-premise delivery, and our what we call 3PD, which is our third-party delivery partners.
Yep.
And so that kind of rounds out the team. And then of course there's always a local store marketing aspect to that as well.
Okay. Well, when you look at the chief marketing officer role, it's definitely very dynamic, changing pretty significantly, more focused on, you just mentioned the customer, insight, actionability. It's not just branding. What are some of the biggest opportunities and or challenges you face in your roles as chief marketing officer?
Yeah, I think, really it's about telling the story of the brand, and then how do we, take the work that the team does and, really stay true to our foundation, stay true to our core of being, a Pan-Asian restaurant, and then really pull that through storytelling. And then how do we get that out in an omni-channel kind of way, so whether it's TikTok or whether it's Meta or whether it's our own kind of, website, how do we tell that story? And then how does that story appeal to the various different demographics that we serve? So how we tell that story to a Gen Z consumer is very different than how we're going to tell that story, to other demographics. So how can we, be compelling storytellers and do it in a way in which appeals to a broad, demographic set?
Absolutely. Okay. The restaurant, quick service, fast casual, they're all kind of evolving right now. A lot of disruption in the industry, and you've been known for your distinctive dining experiences, the atmosphere, the big kind of the Chinese dragons and warriors, and just obviously very unique cuisine. When you look at the evolution of your kind of the dining experience, the brand, how do you preserve some of that identity while continuing to evolve for potentially new guests who come into the the restaurants?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because, one thing that we've talked about a lot is how do we preserve the core of what our guests really love? So Mongolian beef, the fried rice, things that we were known for, tableside sauces, and how do we preserve that core of things that people really love about PF Chang's, but then also innovate to kind of draw in, the new discovery of consumers. So what can we do to preserve the core, keep our classics classic, and then also drive innovation in ways in which are compelling to get that guest to come back into the restaurant? Because it's interesting, when I first took the job, I was like talking to friends and family members, and the one common theme that I heard was, I used to love to go to PF Chang's, and it started to really kind of like irritate me, because I was like, why don't you, like, why did you love to go to PF Chang's, and what's going to get that consumer to come back in? But I think we all have a similar sentiment. I used to love to go there. What did you used to love about it? How can I preserve those sort of feelings, but then also find new and innovative ways to drive that consumer back in? And I think when you think about the dichotomy between off-premise delivery, we have a very strong off-premise percentage of customers, but how do we get them to come back into the restaurant? What is unique to coming into the restaurant? How can we have theatrical dining? How can we have these craveable experiences that you could only get tableside, sharing those memories with friends and family? So, really, I think our job in the last kind of 100 days has been, to kind of figure out what's our kind of path forward. So you'll start to see some really cool things for the balance of the year coming from PF Chang's. We're launching a campaign this summer with sushi boats. So, bringing the sushi boats out with dry ice and having multiple different rolls on a big boat that's on the table, kind of these big shareable experiences for celebratory events. So, putting a big focus on holidays and birthdays and celebrations, and, remembering why you used to come to PF Chang's, and how we can help you celebrate those milestone events.
Okay. And it's interesting. We just finished a paper on Gen Z, kind of their expectations around brands. Obviously, they're changing. And a number of the members of Loyalty 360 restaurants have kind of changed their approach. Some have done it with an aplomb, and some have had some challenges, right, where they may have went too far and kind of alienated the core. And I think that's a delicate balance. And it seems like you have a great approach to that. But when you look at the guest expectations, when you look at restaurant expectations, experiences, how are you evolving, adapting to meet some of those changes in your customer base?
Yeah, I think it's important to have a barbell strategy. So you want to have that strategy where you have the value proposition. Maybe it's a lunch proposition, the lower price points to kind of drive people in. But then once they get, inside your four walls, also giving them the ability to have that adaptation to, maybe I want to have a better experience. So I want to have a more elevated experience, and also offering them those kind of higher end, more polished, casual, kind of options, so that they can use you in various different types of ways, whether it's a quick lunch, I want to come in and grab a lunch special at a good price point and everyday value, or I want to come in for a big night out, and also being able to offer them, that kind of experience as well.
Okay, absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit a big push for value right now. It's kind of that the K-shaped economy everyone's hearing about, right? The people that are maybe a little more well off, they are dining out, maybe more so, and some may be dining out less. But it sounds like you, with kind of the value menu, or kind of from a lunch perspective, it really helps address or assuage some of the concerns that some of the customers may have, I would assume, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think the value proposition, can be addressed in kind of multiple different ways, from the ambiance in the building to the service that you receive, from your server at the table, all of those theatrical kind of elements, to the price point. I mean, I think they all kind of play into the value proposition in different kinds of ways.
Absolutely. When you look at your rewards program and the role it plays in kind of strengthening relationships with the guests, how important is that? We were talking when we kind of came on. Again, one of my top 5 or 6 restaurants, I'm there at least once a month. The one in Atlanta Airport, I hit quite often. I think it's in B terminal up above. Yeah, so hit that quite often. But how does the loyalty program, strengthen relationships, and how do you bring more of a focus to the program?
Yeah, so I think that loyalty programs, I mean, we all know loyalty programs are so inherent and important to any organization, not just, kind of restaurants. And what we've really taken a step back and to look at our loyalty program is, I think that it used to be very kind of transactional, buy something, get a point, kind of this kind of old school thinking. So we're really trying to take a new approach to how can we make our loyalty program more about changing the behaviors of our guests? So how can we look at it from a different lens of status, access, experience? So you're not just getting point for point on your transactions.
Right.
How can we make a feeling of exclusivity for our loyalty club members? How can we make them really a part of a PF Chang's community, whether that's special early access to events or priority seating? We're still kind of figuring out like the details of what that looks like, but I think that where PF Chang sits today with loyalty is not where you will see us sit in the next 6 months.
That's awesome. And you talked about status, access, and experience. Personalization is a big, a big push for many brands, and getting it right can be a challenge, especially for like the Gen Z paper we just did, and many people in that audience they expect you to know them at a deeper level after one transaction, right? They want that exclusive access, they want those experiences. But how do you kind of blend some of that? And it sounds like you're changing the program to be focused more on access experiences. How are you going about evolving the program?
I think that, really it boils down to looking at the technology that we have, looking at the technology that is available and like figuring out, because to your point, a Gen Z consumer expects you to be at the top of the technology game, right? They expect the automations, they expect the personalizations. We're honestly, not at that point yet. That's where I think we ultimately kind of want to get to, where you really feel like that experience is customized to you. And through technology that's available today, we can absolutely get there. So I think that the challenge ahead of us is how do we make the technology work? How do we make our tech stack work? And is our
Yep.
current tech stack correct? And then, what does that look like into the future?
Yeah, that's a big challenge many brands face, right? Especially last year when budgets were a little bit restrained. We do a survey every year on state of customer loyalty, and there was more of a focus on optimization on different platforms, technologies to get what you have right. So instead of ripping and replacing three or four things, we're going to take one or two and replace them. So I think that the optimization, and it sounds like you're doing that, understanding what's working from a technology perspective and what may not be.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think the optimization, your point to optimization is really key because, a lot of these systems have all the capabilities. It's really about asking questions and, being, pushing back and making changes. And, we really kind of started with looking at our automations and where do those sit. And when you join, like the whole customer journey, like when you join the loyalty program, what are the next steps? And then what does that whole kind of customer journey look like using our kind of existing systems?
absolutely. So insights are very important too. As you evolve a program, you have some very ambitious goals, it sounds like, to take the program to kind of a higher level. Listening to the customers can be a big challenge for brands, right? Listening to them, understanding what they actually want, taking yourself outside of your purview and your perspective to truly take action on it. So, how do you look at insights from the guest, whether their behavior or frequency or even just feedback to make the program stronger?
Yes, I think that, really working cross-functionally with all of our teams, not just the marketing team. I think, that's, sometimes a mistake that people make kind of working in a silo, but really holistically working with all of our teams, including, our operations teams, even our like purchasing teams. And really, we have so much data at our fingertips. How can we aggregate all that data and really use it to our benefit? So it comes from, multiple different places. You can get it from POS data, you can get it from tokenization data, you can get it from, so many different places. But then how do we take that data at our fingertips and really, analyze it and make it, tangible in a way in which we can get the ultimate result of that true personalization and the true, point of loyalty.
Absolutely. And you talked about personalization, using the data, making sure you're the right technology, offers, communications experiences. How is that working now? Are you seeing some success, kind of in the early days with, the first 100 days about making more personalization, maybe even from an in-store experience, right? Making sure that the front of house staff know about the program and know about the vision. How are you looking at that so far?
Yeah, I think we know where we ideally want to be, right? In the
Yeah,
perfect world, we know like where we'd want to be, where you come in and the first point of contact knows who you are and they knows where you like to sit and they know what you like to eat. I think all of those things are possible into the future where, not there yet, but I think we've got a good kind of course forward to kind of hit those milestones. But I think you hit the nail on your head. The guests expect a certain level of personalization, and it's possible with technology these days. I think the biggest challenge ahead for myself and my team is figuring out how do we bring that to life.
Absolutely. Okay. So you beyond points and rewards, you kind of talked that you want to take the program to a different level. Emotional loyalty is very important as well. How else do you think about creating a sense of connection or emotional loyalty, with your customers?
Yes, I think it goes back to that experience piece. How can we, make people, give that sense of exclusivity. You're a part of the community, you're a part of the club, you're an insider. Giving them those sort of kind of status levels. I kind of hate to use the word gamification. I think that's like a bit overused at this point. But again, that is a driver for people. I think that, if we could create status and tiers, and everyone kind of wants to work towards that next goal. So really figuring out what's a motivator for people to want to come back in, and how do we, again, going back to how do we change behaviors through loyalty and not make it transactional.
Okay. So, going forward, as you look forward to the program, what do you see as the biggest opportunity to, evolve the customer loyalty program, the loyalty experience at PF Chang's?
I think kind of a similar answer. I think the biggest point to evolve the loyalty program is how do we, really convey to the customer that it's not just about points, but it's how you make that guest feel. How is that feeling of loyalty to PF Chang's because they're a good partner to me and I'm a good partner to them. Not just I come in, I get 5 points for purchasing something. It's not transactional, but it's more of a relationship between the consumer, and PF Chang's.
Okay. And you touched on this a little bit, kind of the next generation customer, next generation kind of brand offering. How are you looking to account for that? Is it digital experiences, is it maybe social platforms, more experiential rewards? How are you thinking about engaging that next generation of guests, through brand loyalty and experience?
Yes, I think that, from a starting point, we're really leaning heavily into, influencer culture, not just, I think people don't want to be advertised to anymore. They want it to feel more organic, so how can we do that through micro influencers? Our media strategy is based on behavior driven insights. So, kind of what are people's behaviors online? What are they shopping for? Where are they going? Where do they work? Where do they live? And then how can we then in turn understand who the guest is that's coming into the restaurant, and how can we more effectively advertise to that individual with more precision? And then in turn, I think when you can drive that guest into the restaurant, then you can gain their loyalty.
Okay. When you look at the competitive landscape, many brands have customer loyalty programs that they're working on in QSR, fast casual, quick, all throughout the restaurant industry. Are there things that you see in other programs, and I have to name them, that you think would work well in your program and you want to bring into the fore at PF Chang's?
Yeah, we just had a pretty big brainstorm around this, and I thought there were some interesting ideas that came, out of out from the team, and I think kind of it revolved around does like if we were to start all over again, like from ground zero, like how would we build our loyalty program? And people had some really cool ideas around like status base. So the more you spend, the more you earn. You can earn a gold tier that gets you XYZ, or a silver tier, or a platinum tier. So I think that kind of was really interesting, and I think there's a lot of companies out there, and I encourage people to look outside of just restaurants. Also, like there's some really strong retail programs that do this really
Yep.
well. And then again, going back to like the whole access. So join the loyalty program, get access to priority seating, especially around like special holidays. We recently had Valentine's Day, and several restaurants were sold out on reservations. So is that a priority to a guest to be able to be part of the gold loyalty tier level and be able to have access to a reservation when they might not be able to get one elsewise? And I think again to that final piece of like just the experiences. So whether it's access to the chef's table inside the kitchen, or access to special wine dinners, or kind of what do those experiences look like? So I think that going back to that kind of core strategy of status, access, and experience. And then again, just being transparent, like, kind of being in this stage in which we know we have a loyalty program, but we know we want to kind of evolve into what that next step looks like. And I think that those three pillars are kind of where we've landed on trying to kind of formulate what that looks like.
Yeah, I think those three pillars are going to be a good foundation for you based on kind of what we see and what we know in the market, and kind of kind of your direction is spot on, I think. When you look at the program currently, what are two or three things that you're most proud of the program as it exists today?
Well, I think, I've got a woman, Christine, that works for me, and she's so extremely talented. And she's got a ton of experience in the industry. So I'm really proud of the work that she's been able to come in initially and do, and really, analyzing our current program and identifying where there are immediate opportunities for improvement. So I
Yeah.
think, like, in the last, like, 90 days, she's been able to really take the program from where it was and make some kind of very immediate actionable changes that the guests will kind of see. So, changes in our automations, changes in our initial offering, changes in the timing in which we send out emails, changes in, kind of the infiltration of what that looks like into your email box. No one wants to really get an email from any organization 14 times a week. So I think that her experience has really helped the program evolve to a place where it was, to a place where we are kind of today in the last 90 days. And she's done a lot of good work with a lot of urgency, and I'm excited to see where she kind of is able to take that program in the balance of the year.
Excellent. Are partnerships something that are important to you, potentially from a brand partnership or a product partnership? Is that something you guys are looking at or have potentially on the roadmap going forward?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like, I wish I could tell you about some of the collabs that we have coming up, but I will say I think that they're very exciting. So, for this year, we've kind of focused our menu innovation around the tour of Japan. So we've got a lot of fun stuff planned this summer, and then next year, for the year of Korea, we've got some really exciting collabs that are, I think, kind of unexpected. But I think that doing kind of those fun, unexpected things are ways in which, again, going back to, like, Gen Z, that we can kind of reach new demographics, reach different kind of customers, and really get that discovery piece from people. So we've got a lot of fun kind of collabs in the works.
That's good. Looking forward to hearing more about them as they come to bear. And last question, what can Loyalty 360 do as a trade association for industry to help you in your program?
Yeah, I think that Loyalty 360 is, when I was talking to my team before this before, you and I spoke today, several of them were like, I listened to this in the car on my way to work. It's great to get, like, insights and hear from other leaders and just get different perspectives. And, I've worked at several different, large enterprise restaurant companies. And I'm really, as I look back on my career, really thankful, because it's really given me a wide perspective. And I think that's so important for people to kind of hear from other industry professionals, get different perspectives, and be able to kind of analyze that information, internalize it, and then take it back and, deploy it into what you kind of do every day. So I think that being able to, have access to listen to people and get perspectives that you wouldn't otherwise have is just, it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really unique about the community. We have a growing brand membership, and the sharing kind of across verticals is very open, and partnerships seem to abound as well. But I think anything from organizational alignment to metrics to new technologies, the community really is very focused on elevating others. So I think that's it sounds like some things that we can continue to do and help you as well. And
Definitely.
now we have our wonderful quick fire question round. Let's keep these to a few words or a short phrase. What loyalty programs do you belong to?
I belong to a ton. So I belong to most restaurant loyalty programs. I belong to United. I belong to Ulta. I belong to Sephora. Those are probably some of my favorites.
Big ones. Okay. What brand other than PF Chang's are you most loyal to potentially, and why?
Well, Probably United Airlines, just because I travel quite a bit. Not that I'm endorsing their loyalty program, but I definitely do use them. And then also probably some of the other brands I mentioned, Ulta, Sephora, occasionally Chick-fil-A, not so much.
Okay, there you go. Is there a book that you have read or like to read often that you recommend to colleagues?
There actually is. So I love Peter Drucker, Managing Oneself. It's like a very small, it's like this big, but I
Okay.
like to read that at least once a year. I think it's a good like level set. So I always recommend people reading that book at least once a year, and just kind of centering. I like to center myself around that. I think it's not a new book. I think it's like 1997 or something like that. But I love Peter Drucker. I like Good to Great.
Yeah.
I think by Jim Collins. That phrase always sticks with me. I want to be great. No, I don't want to be just good. I want to be great. So I think that's another impactful read.
Yeah, I've read Good Great and a number of other books but by that author, but the Peter Drucker Manager I haven't, so I'm going to check it out. So thank you. Is there a profession other than being a chief marketing officer you may like to try?
I've never really thought about it. I did at one time, several years ago, have an Etsy side hustle. So I do like to be creative, and I think that if I did do anything else, it would probably be in some kind of creative space. I mean, clearly it didn't work out, so maybe I should stick to just restaurant marketing. But
Well, it's good. It's good to have a side hustle and something you have passion about, and obviously marketing.
it was fun. It was
Something.
a lot of fun.
Okay, good. Who inspired you to become the person you are today?
I mean, I definitely think I would say my mom. She was just so inspiring to me, my biggest fan, always taught me to be kind to others, believe in yourself. She was a teacher, and so I think she, was big into affirmations, so wake up and look yourself in the mirror and say, you're kind, you are smart, you are important. And, that kind of sticks with me every day. And so, she's definitely my biggest inspiration.
Okay, excellent. And last question, how do you want to be remembered by your friends and family?
I think I want to be remembered as someone that people can count on, someone that, that will always answer the phone when you call, someone there to kind of listen and give advice, and, hopefully someone that, can give you inspiration and encouragement, and, always just lend a hand when someone needs it, or even, if it's, and always be there to kind of listen.
Holly, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning more about how PF Chang's is thinking about customer experience and customer loyalty moving forward. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out over the next year or so. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And also thank you everyone for tuning in today. Be sure to join us every Thursday for a new episode of our Brand Stories podcast in the Leaders in Customer Loyalty series, where we sit down with industry leaders shaping the future of customer loyalty. Subscribe to the podcast and follow us on YouTube and across our social media channels listed below so you never miss an episode. Until next Thursday, have a wonderful day.